Do that. I usually make a note.
We're on the record?
All right. This will be the deposition of Joseph Gonzalez taken pursuant to notice and agreement. I've marked. It's going to be taken in two cases. First, in the case of Maddox et al. Against Creekside et al. I've marked that notice of deposition as A. A to Gonzalez as opposed to A to the 36. It'll also be taken in Sellers against Creekside et al. And I've marked that exhibit as B. And I'll pass that out. And Mr. Gonzalez, you don't need to worry about as far as I'm concerned, the notices of deposition in this. I do that just for the record. This deposition in both cases will be taken pursuant to the Civil Practice Act for all purposes permitted by the Act, including use of trial. Again, if you need breaks, we'll take them. In this depo, I will ask some questions that you already been asked. I bet we will end up saying at some point almost accidentally, as I said before, or as you said before. But to the extent we can avoid that, that'd be a good thing. Because someone may watch this tape without having seen the depo that we did before. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
If I ask a question that's not clear, just let me know, and I'll clarify.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
All right. Please swear the witness.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
So help you.
What's your name, sir?
Joseph Anthony Gonzalez.
Do you own or operate a company called SMJ Construction Services?
Yes, sir.
You probably own and operate it, I guess.
Yes, sir.
What is your role in that company? Do you have a formal title?
No, sir.
Is there any other owner of the company?
President. Sorry.
You're president?
Yes, sir.
Is there any other owner of the company other than you?
No, sir.
Do you agree that it is important for the property owner of an apartment complex to keep that property safe?
My opinion, yes.
Do you agree that good property owners work hard to operate and keep the property safe?
My opinion, yes.
And in fact, if the property is not operated safely, people can get hurt, right?
Yes.
If a property owner knows that a property is dangerous, the owner should work to lessen that danger, right?
Yes.
And if a property owner knows the property is dangerous, that owner should warn the residents about the danger, right?
Yes.
Isn't it true that when you started working at Creekside Forest Apartments, there were essentially no security features there?
Correct.
There were some gates, but the gates didn't work, right?
Correct.
Many of the lights didn't work, right?
Correct.
And there were no working security cameras on the property.
Yes, sir.
That's correct?
Correct.
And then when you and SMJ arrived to work on the property, those weren't the things that you fixed, were they?
Correct.
So SMJ didn't fix the gates, right?
Correct.
SMJ didn't fix the lights.
Correct.
SMJ didn't fix or install any working cameras.
Correct.
Even after the shooting of Jalen Maddox and Terrell Sellers on January 6, 2016, nobody fixed the gates, did they?
Correct.
Nobody fixed the lights, did they?
Correct.
And nobody installed cameras.
Correct.
I want to show you a video, and let me first pass out some thumb drives to the lawyers in this case. I will mark this video on one of the thumb drives as exhibit number 10 for the record. And
Has this been produced before?
Yep. And I will show you this video, and the question I will ask you at the end is whether this is a true and accurate video showing Creekside Forest Apartments.
Yes.
All right, let me roll back to the start. Play it from the beginning without sound. About 3 minutes long. Did that video, which is marked as Plans Exhibit 10, show Creekside Forest Apartments?
Yes, sir.
All right, we tender Plans Exhibit 10. Is there any objection, let me know. Hearing none. Let's go off video. We'll stay on steno, and I'll take this screen down.
Well, the video record, the time is 1:20. Back on the video record, the time is 1:20.
Would you agree, Mr. Gonzalez, that Creekside Forest Apartments was a dangerous place?
Objective form.
My opinion?
Yeah.
I don't find it to be dangerous.
Well, wouldn't you agree that there was evidence of criminal activity throughout the apartment complex?
Objective form.
Again, my opinion, no.
You said no?
No.
Do you agree that there was lots of graffiti and gang-related tagging in the property?
Again, I agree. My personal opinion, no.
Would you agree that there was evidence of vandalism and destroying property?
Yes.
Would you agree that there were lots of vacant and boarded-up apartments where criminals could hide out?
Yes.
I want to show you some photos, and the first one I'll show you is marked as Plans Exhibit 11, and I'll represent to you that this photograph was taken on January 6th of 2016, the day of the shooting.
Okay.
Now, do you recognize where this photo comes from?
Yes.
Where is it?
By the basketball courts.
It shows a lot of graffiti, doesn't it?
Yes.
Do you know, on the looking at the left side of Plans Exhibit 12, do you know what Zoo Crew refers to?
No.
Do you know, I'm looking at the side of that same building and trying my best to read it. Do you know what 22 through or any of the rest of that means?
No, sir.
Do you know what Big B's South means?
No, sir.
How about looking more toward the right side of the photo? Do you know what 20 gang means?
No, sir.
You see where it says ape shit under 20 gang?
Yes, sir.
Now, if we look at the side, again, if we look at the side of that building that says Zoo Crew on the left side of the page, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
You see it looks like it says 227.
Yes.
Were you aware that's the code for murder?
No.
All right. I'm going to show you some other exhibits, and this is several pictures. I'm going to mark them collectively as Plans Exhibit 12. Take a look through those, please. It's 4 pictures, right?
Yes. 5.
5 pictures. Thank you. Let's start at the first one there. This one, it shows a window and some, looks like spray painting in red over some markings in black, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what G3, BBA, 93, Strog, or Whip mean?
No.
Do you know whether that's gang-related tagging?
No idea.
No idea one way or the other.
No, sir.
I guess that'd be true of the pictures we looked at before about Zoo Crew.
No idea what those mean.
Okay. Let's go to the second picture in Plans Exhibit 12. And this is a blue tube with some white graffiti on it, right?
Yes, sir.
You know what any of this means?
No.
Let's go to the one after that. The third image in Plans Exhibit 12 shows some boarded up apartments, right?
Yes, sir.
And doesn't that say XO with a picture of a tongue or something?
Yes.
You know what that means?
No idea.
Did you ever ask any of your security guards what any of this meant?
No.
Did you ever ask anyone at the property what any of this meant?
No.
Are you curious?
No.
You don't care?
I said I don't care. It wasn't part of my thing because this eventually was going to all get painted and everything. So,
Do you know whether Chester Meisels ever asked anyone what all this tagging and spray paint and graffiti meant?
no.
You don't know one way or the other?
No, sir.
Did he ever ask you to find out?
No.
Let's look at the fourth picture in Plans Exhibit 12. That's a box with some spray painting on it, right?
Yes.
It says bitch, and we know what that means, right?
Barbara.
Yes.
And then on the right side of that box, it says 40 something, right?
It looks like it says 40 family.
Yeah, looks. I
The A
agree.
is upside down?
Right. Any idea what 40 family is?
No, sir.
Ever ask anybody?
No, sir.
And the last and fifth image in Plaintiff Exhibit 12 is a door with some painting on it, right?
Yes, sir.
Any idea what any of that means?
No, sir.
Did you ask anyone?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm gonna hand you this paper clip.
Yes, sir.
Paper clip. All that stuff. In fact, let's go off video for a second.
Off the video, time is 1:25.
And I want to.
Back on the video record, time is 1:27.
I will now show you a picture that I'll mark as Plaintiff Exhibit 13. I think you agreed, if I remember right, a second ago that there was evidence of vandalism on the property, right?
Yes.
What kind of evidence of vandalism did you see?
Trying to steal the copper.
That's what we see in Plaintiff Exhibit 13, right?
But that's pretty much what's in front of me.
So Plaintiff Exhibit 13 shows an air conditioning unit where it looks like someone vandalized it in order to take the copper, right?
Copper tubing, yes.
What other kinds of vandalism did you see?
Windows broken.
In fact, they broke the windows on the guardhouse, right?
Yes.
And I believe we also agreed earlier that there
Doors
were
were kicked in.
doors kicked in.
Sure.
What else?
Walls were kicked in. Sliding glass doors were broken.
Did you ever ask Chester Meisels what he wanted to do about the problems that you just described?
As we were fixing them, we were putting boards over them.
All right. I think, speaking of boards, we agreed earlier that there were a lot of vacant boarded up apartments where criminals could hide out. Is that
Yes.
right? I'll show you now what I've marked as Plaintiff Exhibit 14. And Exhibit 14, also, it shows exactly that, right? Boarded up apartments.
Yes, sir.
Plaintiffs will now tender Plaintiff's Exhibits 11, 12, 13, and 14. If there's any objection, let me know.
Well, I mean, Jeb, this is for the purposes of the deposition. I don't have any problem with you quote unquote tendering that for the purposes of the deposition. As far as their admissibility, I don't know if there's an objection to that at this point in time. I don't know who took the photographs. I don't know when they were taken. I don't know if they're representative, what the property looked like. I don't know. So I have no objection to you attaching them to his deposition transcript and asking him about them, whether or not they'll be admissible ultimately. I just don't know.
If you believe there's more foundation that needs to be laid from this witness, let me know while we're here.
I don't think the witness can lay a foundation.
Why?
Unless the witness took the photograph.
Well, we have just different understanding of Georgia law on that point then. Is there anything else about the admissibility of the exhibits we've talked about?
I think what we've agreed to do, Jeb, is reserve objections.
No.
I thought that was our agreement.
No, not for this deposition. It's taken pursuant to the Civil Practice Act for all purposes permitted by the Act.
I understand that. I know that this morning we agreed to reserve objections except for to the form of the question or responsiveness of the answer until first use of the deposition.
Not of this deposition. In fact, the notice says it's pursuant to the CPA.
Well, all depositions that we take in Georgia are pursuant to the Georgia Civil Practice Act.
If you got any objections, are not reserved for this one. If you have any objections you need to make, let me know so I can cure them now.
Well, let me make sure that I've got this clear and that I've got your position clear, Jeff. Will you not agree to the parties reserving objection except for to form and responsiveness at this deposition?
No, I will not. It's taken pursuant to the Civil Practice Act. And what it says about the preservation of objections is what governs.
I completely and totally disagree with your assessment of what the Georgia Civil Practice Act requires. I think that the Georgia Civil Practice Act does allow parties. First of all, I'm not aware of a deposition being taken in any of my cases that are not taken pursuant to the Georgia Civil Practice Act, number one. Number two, it is generally form and professional courtesy to just simply reserve objections until first use of the deposition. So, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but, and forgive me, I missed that. My understanding was that we had reserved objections this morning and that was carrying forward to this deposition as well. So I am requesting that you agree to allow the parties to reserve objections except for to form so that we don't have to go through every single potential objection with respect to this deposition. It's going to make the deposition a lot longer. Frankly, because I didn't even contemplate that you would be not allowing us to reserve objections. So
Yeah.
I'm asking you for that professional courtesy.
I can't do it. We're here in New York. I don't know when we'll be back. If there's an objection to the question or to an exhibit or something, you need to let me know now. That's what, in my opinion, the Civil Practice Act says. Now, there's no point arguing about that because the rules are written down, so we don't need to waste time arguing over that. But it's taken pursuant to the CPA. And what I meant to say earlier is that whatever the CPA says about the reservation of objections is what governs. And those rules are written down. You know them better than I do, probably.
Right. So, but my understanding is that you are not agreeing to allowing the parties to reserve objections.
That's correct.
Okay, then you're ready.
All right, now that does not authorize speaking objections. What that means, objections should be made here the same way they would be at trial. Usually it's objection and then the reason. Objection, call it speculation. Objection, asked and answer, whatever you have to do.
Okay.
It certainly doesn't authorize witness coaching. Not that I've ever known you to do that or heard of you doing that, but just in case. Do you have any reason to disagree, Mr. Gonzalez, that the photographs we've just gone over showed the property in the condition it was at the time of the shooting?
Correct.
It does?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you agree that as of January 6, 2016, the date that Jalen Maddox and Justin Sellers were shot, Creekside Forest was in rough shape?
Objection.
Yes.
You do agree?
Yes, I need to work.
In fact, did you know there was an investigation of the Creekside Forest apartment complex on that exact day, January 6, 2016?
No.
Well, I'm going to show you what I'll mark as Plaintiff's Exhibit 15. And you probably have not seen 15 before. It's something we've produced to the lawyers in the case. Tell me, is Exhibit 15 something that you are familiar with?
No, sir.
All right. Well, let's look through it. It says at the top, Apartment Risk Assessment Report, right?
Yes.
And then,
For the benefit, since you won't agree the parties to reserve objections, I will go ahead and object to exhibit number 15. This, first of all, it's hearsay. It's full of hearsay. It contains nothing but hearsay. The person that authored this is not here. He's not testifying. He's already testified. He does not have any familiarity with this report, and I object to it.
noted for the record. If we look in the, you see at that top, there's a box that says survey information.
Yes, sir.
And if we look at the right side of that, there's on third down, there's a contact name there, right?
Solomon Mitzman.
That's the guy you knew as the property manager, right?
Yes, sir.
And then if we look on down below that, underlined in red, it says date of survey, January 6, 2016, right?
Where is that, sir?
It's underlined in red on the first page.
Yes.
And then if we look at the second box, it says operations, right?
Okay.
And then name of complex, Creekside Forest, correct?
Yes.
There's just a few things I wanted to ask you about this. If we look down a little bit, we can see that the author of this report agreed with you, and highlighted there on the first page, it says the complex is in rough shape, right?
Yes, sir.
And then it goes on, beginning at the bottom of the first page and on to the beginning of the second page of Plaintiff's Exhibit 15, and it says many buildings are boarded up, trash is strewn throughout the complex, tagging is visible around the complex. Isn't that what it says?
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
And then it says at the bottom of that box, also highlighted, it was reported the contractor provides security and they are employees of the contractor, right?
That's what it says.
If we keep flipping through, we'll come to the third page and it says again, trash was noted all around the complex, right?
Yes, sir.
You agree? Do you agree that was true?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If we keep flipping on, you'll get to the 5th page of Plaintiff's Exhibit 15, and toward the bottom there, there's a box where the heading is account conclusion, right?
Yes.
And it says at that point the risk is unacceptable.
Yes.
That's what it says?
Yes, it does.
And if we go to the next page, it says opinion of risk. And the author of this report checked the box poor. Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
We kind of crossed over. I was asking questions at the same time you were answering.
Okay.
And then the rest of the report just has some pictures, right?
Yes.
We talked about the gate, the two gates to the apartment complex earlier, right?
Yes, sir.
And I think you agreed those didn't work when you got to the property in November of 2015, and they didn't work when you left.
Correct.
They never worked.
Correct.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as Plans Exhibit 16. Take a look at that. Does that appear to be a true and accurate photograph of the one of the gate motors?
Yes, sir.
All right. And we talked about that guard shack also, right?
Yes.
And I think you remember that the glass had been broken out, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to show you now what I'll mark as Plans Exhibit 17.
Objective 16 for foundation.
Fair enough.
Do we need to share in these objections or as one? Good.
We can
Oh.
stipulate that you share.
Okay.
How generous, Chad.
Well, I'm going to hand you now what I've marked. I will hand you now what I've marked as Plans Exhibit number 17. Is this a true and accurate picture of the guard shack?
Yes.
And I put a little arrow in there.
I see that.
And that points to some of the broken glass, right?
Yes.
All right. And then I'll show you now what I'll mark as Plans Exhibit.
Objective 17.
All right, you can wait till I tender if you want. I don't mind you noting your objections whenever you want to.
Children.
Are you having fun now?
Oh, I am. Believe it.
That's good, that's good. I will show you now what I've marked as Plans Exhibit 18. That's another picture of the guard shack, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Is it a true and accurate picture of the guard shack?
Yes, sir.
Shows the inside, right?
Yes, sir.
You can see the door sitting there off the hinges, right?
And the sheetrock off the wall.
So door off hinges and sheetrock off the wall, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that the condition it was in?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Object to 18, foundation.
All right, plaintiff now tenders exhibits 18, 16,
Can we skip
and
17?
17.
No, we went through 17. Broken window.
I'm missing 17.
Yeah.
And I've noted my objection to those objections.
All right. Now, Mr. Gonzalez, what message does it send to criminals when the gates don't work and the guard shack door is off the hinges?
Objection to form calls for speculation.
I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
one more time, and I'll give you a standing objection on the same basis. Mr. Gonzalez, what message does it send to criminals when the gates to an apartment complex don't work and the door to the guard shack is off the hinges?
My opinion?
Yeah.
You're a sitting duck.
The apartment complex is a sitting
Yes.
duck, and the people in it are sitting ducks, right?
Correct.
What message does it send? Well, I'll see if I can save it some time. Doesn't it send the same message to criminals when there's graffiti and gang tagging all over the apartment
Same
complex?
objection.
Yes.
And doesn't it send the same message to criminals when there's evidence of vandalism all over
Yes.
the apartment
Same
complex?
objection.
Yes.
Now, did you tell Chester Meisels and the people at his companies what you saw about the condition of Creekside Forest Apartments?
Define the what do you mean?
Sure. Did you and Mr. Meisels talk about the gates?
Yes, we did. He was having somebody give him a quote to repair them.
Did he ever have them repaired, to your
No,
knowledge?
sir. No, sir.
Did Chester know about the condition of the guard shack?
Yes, sir.
Did he know about the graffiti and tagging?
I don't know. I wasn't with them for that.
How often?
I really didn't even know about it. But
Oh.
then again, as I walked through so many times, I just probably didn't even realize it.
You and Chester walked around the apartment complex together, I would presume.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes,
Multiple times.
hundreds of times.
I mean, certainly in November of 2015 when you were thinking about doing this work, right?
Yes, sir.
Did Chester Meisels ever express to you any concern about the safety of the people who lived at Creekside Forest Apartments?
No, sir.
Did anyone else at Creekside by Tag or Tag Acquisitions or anyone else related to Chester ever express concern about the safety of the residents of Creekside Forest?
No, sir.
I want to ask you about what SMJ was supposed to do. Now, was SMJ supposed to fix the gates?
No, sir.
Well, SMJ had a contract with Meisels and his companies, right?
Yes, sir.
That contract, well, I'll show it to you, then I'll ask you questions about it. I'm going to show you this contract, which I will mark as plain as exhibit number 19. And on the first page, it says construction contract up at the top, right?
Yes, sir.
And then we get the date from it in the first line. It says the contract was made on November 23, 2015, right?
Yes.
And if we turn to the page that's tabbed green there, we see signatures, right?
I see signatures? No, I see project work scope.
The page that's tabbed in green.
Green. Okay. Colorblind. Yes.
All right. On the page that's tabbed in green, at the top it says 28 signatures, right?
Yes, sir.
And then we see signatures below that, correct?
Yes, sir.
It looks like Chester Meisels signed the contract for president and owner of Creekside by Tag LLC and Tag Acquisitions Ltd., right?
Yes, sir.
And then contractor says SMJ, right?
Correct, sir.
That's your company.
Yes, sir.
Is that your signature?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if we turn back to the first page, if you will, and I'm interested in the paragraph that has number 1, but really for right now only in the last sentence of paragraph number 1. Doesn't that say, further description of the services is displayed in the attached Exhibit A, collectively the services?
Yes.
Turn with me, if you will, to the page tabbed in yellow. That says Exhibit A at the top, right?
Yes, sir.
And highlighted there, doesn't it say fencing and gates?
Yes, sir.
Okay. SMJ did not fix the gates, though.
No, sir.
All right. Now, SMJ was also supposed to do some things like paint the apartment complex, right?
Yes.
And supposed to clean up the stairways, right?
Yes.
Did SMJ complete those things, painting the apartment complex and cleaning up the stairways?
Yes.
You did.
The interior, what are we talking about? The interior or the exterior?
Exterior.
Some buildings were painted on the outside, yes.
All right, we'll get back to the sort of percentage of completion a little bit later.
And as far as cleaning hallways, you can only clean a hallway so much when people at night make a mess.
Let me ask you this. We'll sort of cut to the chase. Do you believe that SMJ bears some responsibility for the condition of Creekside Forest Apartments?
In what way?
Well, we've established the apartment complex was in rough shape, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that SMJ, your company, bear some responsibility for that?
No,
No? None at all?
no,
0%?
correct.
Well, do you agree that the condition of Creekside Forest Apartments made it easier for criminals to get onto the property?
Objection.
Form.
Yes.
Do you think that Chester and his companies bear some responsibility for the condition of Creekside Forest Apartments?
I object to that. Calls for speculation, calls for a legal conclusion.
All right, I'll give you a
Calls for an
stand.
inappropriate opinion.
I'll give you a standing objection on the same basis and ask the question again so we run clean on the record. Mr. Gonzalez, do you think that Chester Meisels and his companies bear some responsibility for the condition of Creekside Forest Apartments?
But he purchased it in those conditions.
Do you understand Chester to have been the owner?
Yes.
Do you think an owner should make sure he has the money to fix the apartment complex before he buys the complex or after?
Objection.
Yes. You should have the money before.
Do you think that Chester Meisels and his companies did anything wrong with
Objection.
regard to the way they handled Creekside Forest Apartments?
Objection.
I'm not qualified to even answer that question.
Do you have an opinion one way or the other?
Same objection.
I don't know where the mistakes left. Wait, I don't know.
Do you have an opinion as to whether Chester and his companies did anything wrong with respect to this apartment complex?
Same objection.
Can you name anything they did wrong?
Same
No.
objection.
Nothing? 0 things.
0 things.
If you could go back and handle this situation again, starting from the beginning, is there anything you'd change?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Yes.
What?
What would I change?
Yeah.
Honestly, the first thing I probably would do if it was a whole new ball of wax, no new contract, first thing I would do is fix those gates and put the cameras up.
Have you ever talked with Chester about what he would do differently if it was a whole new ball of wax and he could do it over again?
No. Again, that was my opinion.
Mr. Gonzalez, you work in the construction industry, right?
Yes, sir.
And as I understand it, your specialty is interiors.
Yes, sir.
You've worked in construction your whole life, right?
Yes, sir.
You don't have a security license, do you?
Correct, I don't.
You don't have a contractor's license, do you?
Correct?
Did you tell Chester that you didn't have a contractor's license?
Yes.
Did you tell him you didn't have a security license?
Yes.
And you've never worked as a security guard, right?
No.
Did you tell Chester that you had worked in security guard as a security guard?
Did not.
In fact, did anyone at SMJ have a contractor's license?
No.
Did anyone at SMJ have a security license?
No.
At any other job you've ever worked in your life, have you ever been responsible for security?
No.
Now, I think my understanding is that you and Chester Meisels first talked about this apartment complex, Creekside Forest in DeKalb County, Georgia, in early November of 2015. Do I have that right?
Correct.
And he told you about the project at that time, right?
Correct.
He told you the budget was going to be in the neighborhood of $2.5 million, right?
Correct.
That was the biggest project SMJ had ever handled, right?
Correct.
It was the biggest project you had ever handled.
Correct.
So you accepted the project, right?
Correct.
Now, you told Chester Meisels the truth about your qualifications, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
I mean, you didn't claim to have a license that you didn't, right?
No.
You didn't claim to have experience in security, did you?
Correct.
And in late November 2015 is when you and Chester Meisels signed that contract we talked about, right?
Correct.
I want to talk with you about money. Isn't it true that SMJ billed a lot of money for its work at Creekside Forest?
Correct.
Do you know approximately how much SMJ billed?
Off the top of my head, no.
All right. Let's take a look at your invoices then. I'll hand you what I've marked as Plans Exhibit 20. And this is your invoices, which I believe I have put in chronological order. Does your phone work as a calculator?
$1.2 million.
There you go, just over $1 million.
Yes,
or
sir.
$1.2 million, you said?
$1.2 million.
That was the amount that SMJ billed for its work at Creekside Forest.
Correct.
All right. We'll tender Plaintiff's Exhibit 20. If there's any objection, let me know. I'll stop saying that now, but it's
I don't
always
have
the request.
An objection to the invoices that were provided this morning, or that I don't have an objection to the invoices, which we've already went over this morning.
Okay. Now, what percentage of the overall work on the apartment complex had SMJ done when you stopped work?
Well, it depends on what you talk about percentages.
Do I remember you saying about 46 or 47%?
Overall,
Overall?
yes.
All right, let's look at the last page of Plans Exhibit 20. Are you there?
Oh, yeah. I should be going.
And that lists 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different buildings, right?
Correct.
And they have various percentages of completion, right?
Correct.
The lowest of those percentages is 65%, right?
Correct.
And the highest is 90%.
Correct.
Do you agree, Mr. Gonzalez, that in this deal involving Creekside Forest Apartments, SMJ was supposed to provide the security?
Check the form.
For material and for my equipment.
So you're saying the security that your company provided was only for the equipment and your materials?
Yes, sir.
That'd be your materials, that's things like sheetrock and dishwashers, right?
Yes, sir. Stoves, refrigerators, kitchens.
And the equipment, I mean, you're talking about, that's the equipment that you bought, right?
Creekside bought.
All right, we're talking about drills and saws, right?
Yes.
Is it your testimony that you didn't provide any security for the residents who lived at Creekside Forest?
Correct.
You did not provide that?
Correct.
Well, other than the security guys that SMJ hired, there were no other security guys at the property, were there?
Correct.
There were not, right?
Correct.
And you told your guys, didn't you, only to protect the property and the equipment, didn't you?
Correct.
Did you think about the security of the residents?
No, I do not.
Which is more important to you, the dishwashers and stoves or the people who live there?
Oh, honestly, it's the people that live there. I'm not going to say anything different.
Did you tell your guys to protect the people who live there?
No, I did not.
And if we look back at that contract that's before you, I believe it was marked as Plans Exhibit.
19,
Thank you.
yellow slip.
Yep, stick on the first page. On the very first page, highlighted there, at Plans Exhibit 20, it talks about SMJ providing property security, right?
Correct.
All right, we tender Plans Exhibit 20. Now, you did hire security guards, right?
Yes.
You hired 2 for the night, correct?
Correct.
How'd you find those guys?
I don't remember.
Well, do you remember if anyone recommended them to you?
Had to be.
Who recommended them to you?
I believe it was Jesse.
Jesse. Jesse was your sort of second command on the property, right?
Yes, sir.
When you weren't there, Jesse was in charge, correct?
Yes, sir.
What were the names of those two guys who handled night security?
I don't remember.
How can we get in touch with those guys?
I don't know.
Do you have their phone numbers?
No, I do not.
Do you have their addresses?
No, I do not.
Can you tell me how to send them a letter?
No, I cannot.
Well, you paid those guys, right?
Yes, sir.
Paid them with checks.
Yes, sir.
Do you have copies of the checks that you wrote to them?
They were all in Atlanta.
You don't have. You're saying you don't have that anymore?
No, sir.
Well, do you have a copy of like the ledger where you keep track of the checks you've written?
My whole thing is in Atlanta.
So you don't have their names written down anywhere?
No, sir. They had timesheets, everything that was in that room, in that office.
Do you remember the nicknames of the guys you hired to do night security?
No.
Can you give me their physical descriptions?
5'10", black, with a goatee.
Okay. Do you know what part of town they lived in?
No, sir.
Now, you met with your lawyer before you came here to testify today, right?
I met her this morning for the first time.
And by her, you're referring to your lawyer, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
That's Jennifer Mills, who's seated to your left and to the camera's right, correct?
Yes.
Y'all met in person, right?
Yes.
You met here in this office that we're sitting in today, right?
Yes.
This is the New York office of the law firm of Hawkins, Parnell, Thaxton, and Young, right?
I believe so.
Y'all met at 7 o'clock this morning, right?
Yes, sir.
Y'all had talked on the phone before that, right?
Yes.
I'm going to object to that line of questioning as to relevance for the purpose of this deposition.
Did you review any documents with your lawyers?
This morning, yes.
Which ones?
Pretty much what we've gone over.
I wanted to ask you about this. You hired a security guard named Dre, didn't you?
Yes.
He was supposed to provide security during the day, right?
Yes.
How'd you pay him?
Check.
Did the checks go through?
Of course they did.
He got paid then, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you told him to protect the materials and equipment, but not the people, right?
I
Check
never.
the form.
You see, you're twisting words, my friend.
Did you tell?
People were never mentioned. Was never brought up, never mentioned.
Did you ever ask him to provide protection for the people who lived Creekside
No, I
Forest?
did not. I made that statement quite a few times already.
Did you ever talk with Dre about crime on the property?
No.
Did you ever ask Dre what was going on?
On the property?
Yeah.
No.
Did you ever ask him about the graffiti?
No.
Did you, Chester Miles, or anyone else that you know of, ever warn the residents of Creekside Forest about crime on the property?
No.
Check the form.
Did you, Meisels, or anyone else that you know of, ever warn residents about graffiti and tagging and what that could mean about gang activity?
No.
Check the form.
Objection.
I'm going to ask those questions again because I think they're maybe actually right about those objections. To the best of your knowledge, did you, Meisels, or anyone else ever warn residents about crime on the property?
No, sir.
Objective form.
To the best of your knowledge, did you, Meisels, or anyone else ever warn residents about graffiti and tagging and what that could mean about gang activity?
Same
No.
objection.
Did you, to the best of your knowledge, did you, Meisels, or anyone else ever tell the residents that those gates at the front of the property were not going to be fixed?
No.
To the best of your knowledge, did you, Meisels, or anyone else ever tell residents that there were no working cameras on the property?
No.
Objection.
To the best of your knowledge, did you, Meisels, or anyone else ever tell residents that the guard hut at the front of the property wasn't going to be fixed?
Same
No.
objection.
Did you, or to the best of your knowledge, anyone else at SMJ ever warn residents that you were only there to provide security for the equipment and supplies?
No.
Now, while this project was going on, it's my understanding that you stayed in New York but would fly down to Georgia 1 or 2 times a week.
Yes.
Well, when you came to Georgia to work on the project, you didn't stay at the Creekside Forest Apartments, did you?
Correct.
You did not?
Did not stay there.
There were plenty of vacant apartments, right?
Yes, there was.
I mean, over half the complex was empty, right?
Yes, there was.
But you stayed at a hotel by the airport that was 15 to 18 miles away from the property, right?
Yes.
And you don't have a car, do you?
Correct.
You didn't rent a car.
Nope.
So you would take a taxi back and forth?
I would have Jesse pick me up in the morning.
Okay, so you'd have someone pick you up and take you the 15 to 18 miles to the property.
Yes, sir.
And you didn't, your hotel, well, strike that. Did you ever stay overnight at Creekside Forest Apartments?
No.
Do you ever know of a time when Chester Meisels stayed overnight at Creekside Forest Apartments?
No.
To the best of your knowledge, did he ever do that?
The best of my knowledge, I don't know. I don't think so.
Now, I want to clarify who this person is. Sometimes I have seen the name written as Cheskel Meisels, and sometimes as Chester Meisels. Is that the same guy?
Yes,
To
sir.
the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
And I want to be able to identify him with other people in this case. So I'm going to show you now what I've marked as Plans Exhibit number 21. And I want you to tell me if that is a picture of Chester Meisels.
Yes.
All right. We tender Plans Exhibit 21. When you were dealing with this property and dealing with Chester or his companies, what person did you mainly deal with?
Chester.
Did you deal separately with someone for tag acquisitions and separately with someone for Creekside by tag, or would you deal with the same person? Same person?
Yes, sir.
Chester Meisels for all of them?
Yes.
So far as you could tell, was there any difference between the companies?
No.
Or did both appear to be doing the same thing from your perspective?
From my perspective, yes.
Isn't it true that at times when you were out there at Creekside Forest, people would come up to you with complaints about the property?
Correct.
What'd you do?
Basically, refer them to the management office.
Did you ever listen to their complaints and try to fix them?
No.
You just told them to contact someone at the management office?
Yes.
That would have been Solomon Mitzman, I think, right?
Solomon, I don't know his last name.
Now, you know, of course, that Jalen Maddox and Terrell Sellers were shot on January 6, 2016, right?
Yes, sir.
They were shot off the property on that kind of approach to the property, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And I think I understand that you talked with Chester about this shooting the day after it occurred. Is that right?
I believe so.
What did he say?
I don't recall the conversation.
Mr. Gonzalez, do you blame Jalen Maddox for that shooting?
No.
Do you blame Justin Terrell Sellers for that shooting?
No.
Do you blame Jalen Maddox's parents?
No.
Let's take a break.
Off the record, time is 2:05. Back on the record, the time is 2:06.
I have no further questions right now.
Thank you, sir.
I don't have any questions.
I don't have any questions.
You're really going to like this. Now you're done.
That concludes today's deposition. The time is 2:06.